Corner to Corner podcast. His name is
Paul. Yes, hi.
And my name is...
Don't know. What is your name?
There you go, that'll do. My name's Geoff, and we're here today to talk about the recently released and long anticipated Fugitive Doctor audio from Big Finish. The first box set of 3 stories was called Most Wanted, of course stars Joe Martin as the Fugitive Doctor. And we've both listened to it now, and we've got some comments later from other people who've been listening as well. And we people in general have been waiting for this for an extremely long time. I can't remember when I pre-ordered this first set. But when I met, I'm going to do a bit of name dropping now, but when I met Joe...
BBC, we did some filming together a short while back for the character options set.
Yeah, with
we had a lovely chat about such things.
Yeah. So that was November 23, and she said then that she recorded it all about 2 years prior to that, or at least a year. So it was quite a while ago, and obviously Big Finish can't do, current Doctors until they finished on TV and then some time after. So I think there was probably a bit of banking this and waiting. And I do wonder whether there may be a Jodie cameo in the next set. Perhaps they were waiting for...
That'd be exciting then, wouldn't it?
I just sort of was thinking, Jodie stuff is coming. I wonder why this has taken so long. So anyway... So yes, Joe has been able to return as the Fugitive Doctor. But before we get into taking a look at the audios, why don't we hear a little bit from Joe about the series herself?
You could have told me you were going to do this. I'd have done some work for 5 minutes before popping on. Go on, you carry on. You crack on, mate. I'll do some work over here.
Let's roll VT, and you can do some work or whatever you want to do, and then we'll be back in a minute. So here's Joe Martin.
And we still got the Big Finish to come. We haven't had that.
Indeed, yeah. I was going to ask you about that.
Oh, good. Sorry, go on.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, you've recorded it, haven't you?
I certainly have. I kept saying it was a secret. But every Whovian I bump into, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're out in January. It's coming out in January." But I think it was announced now, right? It's been announced.
Yeah.
They announced obviously a while ago, and
we don't know what the stories are particularly, do we? I don't think.
No,
but we know it's there's.
Well, I'll tell you
a
everything.
box set.
No, you won't. No. We'll just cut recording.
Yeah, we're definitely not recording now. Honestly.
Oh, good. I'll just keep my mind.
Spill it all.
But they're brilliant. All I can tell you is that they're brilliant.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. They're really good eps, and I was so grateful for the standard of the scripts and the other actors they got to come on board to come and guest on it with me, just of a standard that I was just blown away by.
Yeah.
And but we recorded them so long ago. I think it's literally 2 years ago now.
Yeah, really? Well, when we saw you for the figure
stuff.
Well, I guess they need to do.
Them, don't we?
Yeah, it's a lot of post-production work on them and the sound and stuff. But it does. Maybe someone suggested it was a contractual thing, and maybe they had to wait until a certain amount of time after the Jodie era had finished on TV to put stuff out, because Sasha's Master stuff hasn't come out yet either. So,
that's to come.
Yeah, so people are eagerly awaiting all of it. And,
seriously, the anticipation is almost like fever pitch, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
After our filming with the figure, people were saying, any mention of Big Finish? And I said no, because you said then that you'd recorded it, and like you were saying about getting the role on the show and having to keep it secret. It's a little bit different, of course, but. With the figure stuff, and I'd see people online saying, "Where's the Joe figure? They've missed a trick," and getting quite irate. And I was thinking,
upset.
if only you knew, keeping
patient.
that secret. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that was us talking to Joe Martin.
How long ago was that? Because that was a while ago as well. That was before you filmed the character options thing with her, wasn't it?
It wasn't. It was after.
It was after. Oh, yes, it was, because you said to her, "Hi, Joe, we do a podcast. Do you fancy jumping on?"
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I mentioned it when we filmed, but then one day I thought, I'm just going to do it, and I messaged her on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know if you remember, and she did, and then we chatted, and then we emailed, and then we sorted it out.
Brilliant.
So it was about April last year, I think. So if you haven't listened to that episode with Jo, please do
listen to it.
It's really
very
good.
good.
Yeah. And she was very good with us. And
she's brilliant. I love her. I mean, her enthusiasm is infectious. I'm quite an enthusiastic person myself. So when I'm talking to other people who are equally enthusiastic, or even more so, then it's brilliant. And one of the biggest revelations was the fact that, and again, if you listen to this, listen to the interview, is she is a massive sci-fi fan. We didn't really get into it too much, but we had a little chat about Blade Runner, didn't we? And and the sequel, and she knows that stuff. She's not putting it on. She knows it. She is a proper sci-fi fan. She's a proper Doctor Who fan. And that story about her son, when she got the gig as the Doctor, is brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good.
Listen to it, because Jo is I mean, she's wonderful to listen to anyway, but in our interview with her, she was just fantastic, and it was an absolute delight, that interview. I enjoy all our celebrity interviews, but I think the one with Jo, because it was like, it's so fast and furious, and it was like pitched at quite a high level, with her enthusiasm just filling the whole thing. It's just brilliant. Please listen to it.
And she was really good to us. She gave us an hour, which she squeezed in between work and stuff, and really accommodating. And
absolutely,
she's said how the role changed her life, changed her career, and she really loves it and loves all of it. So she's fantastic. So this box set then from Big Finish.
Did you get it on CD?
I did actually, yeah.
Have you got the CD with you?
No, I had the dispatch notice yesterday. I would like to have shown it.
It hasn't arrived yet?
No, so it'll be here tomorrow. So we've just listened to the download version.
Yeah, because the CD had sold out by the time I got round to buying it. It all gone, so it's like this is now sold out on CD completely. Which is
great, I mean, it shows the popularity of the character and, hopefully the era as a whole. So in this first set, we kind of it's just adventures with the Fugitive Doctor, really, isn't it? There's no specific answers about division or the Timeless Child or positions or anything like that. I mean, there's hints of things, and there's obviously a bigger mystery going. She has this sort of nightmarish section where she's saying,
in the third story.
I do not fear you.
I see you, but I do not fear you.
That's it. Yeah. So there's something more there, and the Doctor is being pursued by Cosmogon, played by Alice Krieg.
Alice Krieger, the Borg Queen, ladies and gentlemen.
Even I remember that.
How exciting is that? Yeah. The actual Borg Queen in Doctor Who.
Yeah. So
very exciting.
She's well, from Division and the Time Lords, isn't she? Trying to track down the Doctor.
Yeah, I think the name's a bit dumb, but it's Cosmogon.
Yeah, they call her Cosmo, don't they?
And there's a bit of banter, like she gives in the Valyard Knackers Yard treatment, doesn't she? Where she calls her Cosmopolitan.
That's it. I knew there was some things. Variations.
Yeah, that's quite fun.
I couldn't remember what they were.
Typical Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can go through each of the stories.
Yes. How many stories are there, Geoff?
So there's 3. The first one is hold on, let me bring up my Fast Times.
I'm looking at mine actually. I've got to load the old Big Finish app because the new one is still pants. It still hasn't downloaded or recognised that I've downloaded Most Wanted. So yeah, I'm on the old app still. Look at that.
Oh right, okay.
So let me just load that up so I can remind myself of... Okay, so the first story was Fast Times, isn't it, by Robert Valentine. Now, this one is a kind of... So there's a quick few minutes of setup at the start of it when the Doctor does a runner from Division, I think.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes into kind of just a sort of standard kind of Doctor Who story thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and...
Are we going to give spoilers on this, by the way? Do you think we should? I think we have to, really.
Yes, I think so.
Otherwise, we're going to struggle talking about it, I think.
Yeah. If you haven't listened, maybe stop listening here till you have, because we don't want to have to hold off, talking about anything.
But from now on, we're in a spoiler zone. So
spoiler
continue at your own risk.
So this one starts, I've written, starts explosively with the fugitive on the run, and she's betrayed at a job. And yeah, you're right, Paul. It just it's just a Doctor adventure, and I might have seen, you know, one or two people saying, "Oh, well, I wish, you know, this had explored Division and Timeless and stuff a bit more." Maybe
there's going to be a lot of that ongoing, I think.
Yeah,
but
you know, I think her Doctor is and should. Well, you know, her Doctor is the Doctor, and I think, you know, seeing her, or hearing her in just adventures, you know, she should be that. Her Doctor is more than just the Division mystery, and you know,
exactly. Yeah, totally agree. It kind of puts her within a sort of Doctorish environment, a very Doctor Who formula. It's quite formulaic, you know, but there's nothing wrong with that, really. You know, it is. No. It's good to see just the Doctor, a new Doctor, really having a Doctor Who adventure.
Yes, because we've not really been able to see this with her before. So she's on the run because Division want her back because she's got some secrets in her head. She doesn't know what they are, which is frustrating for her. We don't know what they are. Will Big Finish explain things? Maybe, maybe not. I kind of hope not, because I think Chris Chibnall's right. Is that you know, the you know, vaguities of it all.
Vagary, the vagueness.
That one. The vagueness of it all. It adds to her character.
It's a mystery.
And if we explicitly say, oh, it's this, that, and, you know, she knows how the different Division members like their tea and coffee, you know, it takes that away a little bit, I think. So for me, I'm quite happy with, you know, hints and things, and whatever this I see
hints
you,
and snatches,
and whatever I see you but do not fear you is, you know, I don't think it will kind of be any you know, big revelation in it, or like of the overall thing. So I'm quite happy with all of that.
Yeah, I mean, when you think like even the Timeless Child, you know, the last few stories of the Flux, where the 13th Doctor kind of met with her mum and all of that stuff, it sort of explained some things, but didn't explain a lot. It kind of left more mystery. It opened up more questions to which they didn't deliver all the answers. And I love that. You know, it's a really good way to kind of keep a mystery going. You know, you solve the immediate questions, but in doing so, you open a door to so much more. And you think, if you go through one of those doors, there's even more doors. Like, you know, we still don't know where the Doctor comes from. We don't really know what her relationship with Division is or was. No. You know, so all of those things, they're great. So, I would like a little bit more teasing in future box sets from Big Finish. You know, maybe a few more Division operatives, but I hope that in doing so, they don't answer all the questions. I hope they actually lead to more mystery about what Division is, and, you know, because there is, because there's also in kind of Doctor Who mythos the CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency, which was coined by Robert Holmes as a bit of a joke in The Deadly Assassin. So this again is a kind of clandestine black ops section within Time Lord Society that carries out all these underhand things. And in the Big Finish second Doctor adventures, the second Doctor, post-regeneration in a way, or pre-regeneration actually, but post, you know, between the War Games and Spearhead from Space, we see him working for the CIA, right? So, and there's a lot of fan talk about whether the Fugitive Doctor actually fits into that same section, whether she's a kind of, you know, whether Division is a part of the CIA, or whether the two things run completely independently, unaware of what each other's doing, or whatever, you know. So there's a lot of tension to be had there. There's a lot of story that can be mined, I think, from that kind of thing. And of course, again, we still don't know where the Fugitive Doctor fits into the whole timeline, whether she actually is pre-Hartnell, or whether it's 6B, or whether it's something else entirely, whether she's even a future incarnation of the Doctor. I
mean, there's a few bits in this box that we'll come to that sort of, you know, give a little bit of an answer to it. But, you know, for me, if she is, as Joe was told, the first Doctor, fine. You know, it does not undo anything about William Hartnell being the first Doctor that we saw, the original. But if she's between 2 and 3, fine. If she's from the future and has been sent back, you know, whatever. Again, I think it's part of the fun of it, part of the mystery. And, you know, I've said before on the podcast, sometimes, you know, I do need things to be explained, but only to an extent. And this doesn't explain things fully, but there's enough for me to kind of work with it. You know, it's not totally vague, you know, but it's not completely concrete either. So anyway, let's go back to Fast Time. So the Doctor gets captured, and she gets taken to Punishment, which then turns out to be a planet called Punishment.
Is it a planet? I thought it was like a prison Hulk kind of thing.
Yes, possibly like that, like a rock with a prison.
Oh, okay.
But whatever it was, it was literally called Punishment.
It was.
So when she gets in there, she fairly quickly stands up to the bully in the prison who's been picking on someone.
She does. Yeah. Flashbacks to the Jadoon kind of fight, isn't it?
And the Doctor admits that she's very opinionated when the guy says that it's got nothing to do with her, and then she nicknames him Tiddler because he's sort of a fishy.
He's big fish, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she names him Tiddler.
That's it, yeah. And she doesn't care about becoming a target in the prison for stepping into this. And she makes a new friend called Fade. Fade carries this teddy called Xena, which she won't let go of, and the Doctor kind of thinks it's a bit strange, but he's kind of like quite easy about it at the same time. And her Doctor here has been able to expand, I think, in her characterisation, which is something I think Joe wanted to do with it. And there's elements of compassion and hope and optimism, like the Doctor and particularly like 13, as well as the more bolshy nature, the sarcastic nature and stuff like that. Because when we first see her in Fugitive, she's ripping off Jadoon horns and kicking hats and firing guns, and she's not as like that here, but
there are elements of it though, aren't there? You can see where that comes from.
I remember saying about Fugitive before, she was, I think, designed to be the antithesis of 13. More gentle, etc. And I think this audio has done a really great job of kind of giving more facets to her character.
Yeah.
So
go on.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I've always likened the Fugitive Doctor to the Sixth Doctor in a lot of ways, and I think it's quite interesting to say that because the Sixth Doctor is like the antithesis of the Fifth Doctor. And just before we came on here today, we were talking about the similarities between the Fifth Doctor and the 13th Doctor. They're both they're both very, or they're both much more sort of compassionate. They're both quick to temper, but they tend to they tend to take control of their temper and just breathe it in, count to 10, quash it down. Whereas the Sixth Doctor, if he gets angry, boom, he's right out there. And I think that's the same with the Fugitive Doctor. Maybe it's not anger so much, but there's a shortness. I haven't got time for this. A lack of patience.
There's a lot
just
of
go
that,
straight in, right in. Whereas the 5th and 13th Doctors kind of like to sit back, assess, the situation, look at the people, look at the dynamics of what's going on around them, and then start acting in a much more subtle kind of way, perhaps. Until they're driven to take extreme action, and they often do. So this is very much, I'm in charge of the room, straight in, centre of everything, and I'm not standing for any crap kind of approach, which the Doctor has had on occasions. Yeah,
and I think, I've said before that I think that the Doctor, there's all these kind of facets to them, and in some, the volume slider is pushed up on one thing.
Yes, it's like that graphic equaliser, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what keeps it interesting. If the Doctor was the same every time, it'd be a bit dull. So Faye suggests a prison break, but the Doctor isn't quite sure and doesn't really want to do it. But it turns out Faye's already
they're going ahead with it, but just as she's told it, it's actually happening now, isn't it?
Faye's already escaped, and something, it's happening. So they need to try and find the TARDIS, and then I was quite surprised by this next bit. So the Daleks turn up.
Yeah, I was very surprised by that.
Well, they're on the box artwork, and again, I saw people going, the Daleks
are they,
are
actually?
in it. But in the top corner.
I'm gonna look now. Actually, I don't notice that. Oh yeah, they are. They're all over it. I didn't realise that.
I don't know how you didn't see
Daleks. Yeah. Oh well.
But the Doctor hasn't heard of them, so I thought, that's quite interesting. She has no idea who the Daleks are. She's never met them, not heard of them, and that to me was quite fresh, because obviously the Dalek is the Doctor's worst enemy, but in this incarnation, she's got no idea.
Which I really like that. Yeah, I hope they kind of do a bit more of that.
Exactly. It took that thing of, people going, oh, not the Daleks again, and completely spun it. And, she's going, what are they, a robot? And then, she says, oh, it's got, alien inside it. She, literally no idea, which I thought was fantastic. It
could be fantastic, or it could be actually quite boring in a way, because I must admit, when I first listened to this story, and it kind of turned out that it was kind of just going to be a sort of more formulaic standard story once the setup had been done, it's like they didn't seem to really do anything with that, apart from remarking, that, like you said, that whole initial reaction where the Doctor doesn't recognise the Daleks, that's good. But then it's over and done with, and she's back into fighting them, the same as. So I think there is something really interesting to have a Doctor who doesn't know or doesn't remember or has never met the enemies, the more familiar enemies that we've encountered. But this story didn't do anything with that. It kind of put it out there and got over it pretty quickly, and then the Doctor's kind of just standing battling Daleks, But
it is, rattling along pretty fast, and
But and that's why it's almost like the first time when I listened to it, I kind of got with it. It's only when I sort of interrogated it a little bit more closely afterwards, and then went in for not quite a second listen, but it's I sort of picked up a few things to think about, to talk about for this podcast. Then I thought it sort of falls away a bit, there is a lot of potential in this story which is not used, but that doesn't mean to say that it can't be used in another story. This has the job, Fast Times has a job of just getting our Doctor into an adventure. That's it. It's not trying to be anything clever or particularly swishy or any stuff like that. And you can criticise it for that if you like, but that's not what it does. It's almost like Robot. The fourth Doctor adventure. It's very much like a third Doctor adventure, as we looked about when we talked about it with Al Dewar, and that's very intentional. And I think this is the same. It's using a lot of stuff from the Doctor Who shelves. It's pulling some stuff off, assembling them in a format that we know works. The Doctor battling Daleks, etc. Bang, job done. And it gives us the ability to kind of immediately understand where the fugitive Doctor is. That she is the Doctor, as we said. It's 5 minutes ago. All of that stuff. It's just an introduction in there. So that doesn't mean to say that we can't use that weirdness, that kind of disjointed, almost unfamiliarity that the Doctor has with her older enemies, perhaps, in a future tale. So if they do that, I'm going to be looking forward to it immensely.
I imagine that it will come back. It's clear that the second box set continues on from this one, and this is the first episode, the first real full adventure we've heard with the Fugitive Doctor. We don't need to suddenly bog it down by, getting into, unknown Dalek backstory and things like that. So I think they did a really good job to give, a fresh twist on the Doctor fighting her enemies. So they have.
I think they started doing it. I'm kind of still on the fence a little bit, because I don't think it really fully delivered that first story on that level. So let's see what happens later on. Like I said, they mentioned it and then did nothing with it. So it's fine. I can live with that, because as I said, that's not what the story is. But let's see if they tackle it more head on in a later adventure.
I did write, it's a shame we can't see the TARDIS chase against the Daleks, because it sounded really cool. And it would have been really nice to see
you
that.
You like that sort of stuff,
on
don't
screen,
you?
That's
the big deal. It's like the TARDIS spinning around after a bunch of Dalek ships in a CGI nightmare. I don't know. If I was 5 years old, probably, but I know you have the brain of a 5-year-old anyway.
That's the thing. I'm dopey, aren't I?
Your 5-year-old, your inner 5-year-old is very much alive, bouncing around in your head, saying, "Yeah, give me more of this stuff." There's nothing wrong with that, mate. I'll tell you now. Mine's been quashed under the weight of adult responsibility and horror.
So Xena, the teddy, has a data stick in it, which is what Fade is sort of looking after, and it turns out it's got info about the Daleks in it, so they're able to use that to stop them. Fade has interacted with the Daleks before, and they've killed her people, so she's obviously kind of got a vendetta against
bit of a grudge.
Yeah, and there was a mention about her parents. She thinks they're dead, and the Doctor says they might not be. I wondered if she'd come back in this set, but she didn't. But again, it could be next time. So this next sort of section of it is quite fun. So they need to lure the Daleks somewhere to get rid of them. So they start time hopping. We get some dinosaurs. They go to New Mexico, and when Oppenheimer is about to drop bomb.
You like that, did you?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. You know,
fair enough.
Yeah, the whole thing is really quick. You know, Cosmo's giving chase, and the Doctor don't want to wait for her, and you know, it's the fugitive Doctor on the run.
Yeah, true.
She's on the run. You know, going, you know, not sort of having a dig, but going, oh, you know, there's been doing a lot of time hopping here. She's fucking fugitive.
That's what, that's kind of the key to the whole reason behind her Doctor. She's a fugitive. It's like, well, I mean, they mention it in the backstage interviews, don't they? Quite a few times. The similarity. A lot of the writers are picking up on the Fugitive series and the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that whole dynamic.
Yeah, and I think that's what, you know, they needed to do here. I think. You know, if I'd listened to this and it had just been the Doctor, you know, plodding around somewhere, you know, it would have been okay. But, you know, bearing in mind again, the fugitive, so she gets sent to jail, breaks out, you know, goes on the run. That's literally what it says on the tin. You know,
if you do like a word cloud with this podcast, the word fugitive is going to be the big one, most central part of it. I think also, which was also mentioned in the backstage interviews, which I also listened to, was the fact that it resembles in some ways the story structure resembles the Hartnell adventure, The Chase, which was the third story to feature the Daleks in Forever, and that again was where the Doctor is kind of being chased, hence the title, through time and space, and ends up in Hollywood on the top of the Empire State's Building and various other places throughout the whole thing. And it was quite interesting. It was Nick Briggs in the backstage was kind of saying that he was told to do the voices as per the Chase, because the Daleks in the Chase have a very distinctive voice. David Graham, one of the Daleks, I think it's David Graham's voice, who's a bit cockney. Hello, how's it going, mate? All right, it's not quite as bad as that, but he's a very bumbling, very much East London sort of Dalek, right? Which I think it's only ever been done the once. But I unless I'd heard it in the interview with Nick Briggs in the backstage stuff, I wouldn't have got that from the production. It sounded to me very much like standard modern day Daleks, booming, well modulated tones. They just, you know, so it's a bit of a shame in a way. If that was intended, personally, I felt it was kind of lost. Would I have liked to have seen that? I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference. Maybe it's just one for the fans anyway to sort of pick up on that stuff. If anybody's listened to these stories from Big Finish and it's their first Big Finish experience, it probably wouldn't make any sort of difference whether it was or it wasn't. But yeah, that's that was an interesting one. You know, those sort of parallels to a classic Doctor Who story, The Chase.
Yes, I didn't know about that. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for me overall, I really liked this Fast Times one. I think it kind of did what I expected. I mean, you know, I loved it. I mean, you know, even more than I kind of hoped I would, really. And you know, it was fun and it's exciting, and like I said, it kind of did what it needed to do. I enjoyed it. You know, for the fugitive. So the next one is The Legend of Baba Yaga. Now, I'll be honest, I was disappointed this wasn't a John Wick spin-off.
John Wick with Baba Yaga?
Yeah, that's what they call him in it. Have you never seen it?
I have seen. I've seen the first couple of John Wick films. I haven't seen 3 and 4 yet.
Oh, right.
If I even want to be honest. I've got to be in the right sort of mood for John Wick, which is basically switch off brain and just sit back and watch it.
Well, that's pretty much it, and admire the incredible choreography, and
it's pretty good choreography. I'm not going to lie. I just want to push this a little bit more. Then, so I want to see the John Wick Baba Yaga experience. Talk me through it, Mr. Geoff.
What in this story? Do you mean?
Yeah. Where's John Wick come from? Because you do come out of these things. Not going to lie, mate. You'd be Warriors of the Deep as Die Hard.
No. They refer to John Wick as Baba Yaga in the series.
Oh, is that it?
He's the bogeyman. He's the Baba Yaga. You see, what I've done is taken the thing of Baba Yaga, and made a pop culture reference to it being John Wick. If anyone's listening and they've got it, please do tell us.
I'm ashamed of myself that I didn't see it. Obviously, I haven't watched John Wick enough times to kind of pick up on that. I was thinking more like when he's mentioned, when Baba Yaga's mentioned in Ant-Man a couple of times. Is it Ant-Man? Yeah?
The fucking Baba Yaga, John Wick. Yeah.
So I was also thinking, if you're going to go down this road, mate, I'll throw another one at you, because when I was listening to the whole Baby Yaga thing, I was there's a Tomb Raider bit of DLC, isn't there? Was it in Shadow of the Tomb Raider? The Legend of Baba Yaga. It is. It's the second one.
Oh, I don't remember
the second game of the modern, the recent
new one.
The last 20 years or so.
Yeah, I have played that. Yeah.
There you go, and it's exactly that. The house on chicken legs.
Yeah.
And as Lara Croft, you've got and you're all sort of drugged up. It's like a hallucinatory thing, and it's absolutely freaking nightmarish. I've played it a few times, and every time I go there, I dread it. I dread playing through that bit. And this was great because the Baba Yaga in this story was very much like that. So I was trying to get the whole Lara Croft thing, out of my head. Although
about that,
there you go. See, so I'm not as dumb as I look.
This is a lot of folklore, witches, demonic horses, discussions about magic and science. Is it the Asimov quote? Magic is in
Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah,
any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yes. So we start initially with Vasilia, who is a blonde-haired sort of heroine in waiting, who is part of a Russian maybe folklore legend.
Russian, yeah.
And what I particularly liked about this story is that Vasilia is sent off by her awful mum and stepmother to go and
fairy tale, isn't it?
Yes, it's Cinderella and all that, to go and get fire from Baba Yaga because theirs has gone out and they need to keep warm, obviously. And it's presumably that Vasilia is a legend, and then the Doctor has gone here to try to find Baba Yaga because a squadron of Time Lords crashed in the area, went missing, and she thinks Baba Yaga may know something about it, and she's got some cloaking technology that she wants to get hold of to help shield her from Cosmo. So all this stuff kind of converges, and throughout the story there's a lot of the sort of myth of the Doctor, the legend of the Doctor, the legend of Baba Yaga, legend of Vasilia, how Vasilia is at a point before she becomes kind of who she's famous for being and things. And there's a lot of kind of parallels with the Baba Yaga's house, the TARDIS, the Doctor, and all that. And I thought it was really nicely done, all of that. And it's quite sort of spooky as well, so obviously I quite liked that.
I thought you might.
Yeah, and so the Doctor is slightly out of her comfort zone. I put here, she's spooked by Baba Yaga's ability to stop a fire from starting, and Baba Yaga is able to command doors and gates and stuff to open without her touching them. And
voice control.
And the Alexa, and the demonic horses are chasing them and turning to ash and stuff. But then, so we sort of are seeing Baba Yaga as a witch, but she thinks the Doctor is a witch because she's got stuff in her head. She can semi-read her mind. She knows that she's not from here, the TARDIS, it's this great big thing, sharp lines, and all this. It's not natural.
It ain't natural.
Yeah, all that parallel stuff was really nice, I thought. And
it was nicely played.
Probably one of my biggest enjoyments and surprises from this was finding out Baba Yaga is bloody Sylvia Noble.
Yeah, I know. That was brilliant. She goes full on witchy, doesn't she?
Yeah, it's a brilliant performance, and it was only when I looked at the credits list I was like, what the hell? Hang on. I thought she was fantastic and clearly having a great time, doing
There's
it.
some, totally. Yeah, she's just chewing the script up completely, spitting out the thread. There is a really good cast in this actually, because you're right. Jacqueline King's Sylvia Noble, Alice Krieger as well. We mentioned the book Queen, but also I forgot to mention Fade is Lee Harvey, who was Salvor Hardin in the Foundation series, and as a big massive fan of Foundation, which is in that lot somewhere, and I love the TV series. It's great. I love it when all these people from the world of sci-fi and beyond, and come in to do Big Finish things.
Yeah, they've been getting loads, haven't they? And Vasilia was played by Sophie Shad, who looks to be she's a comedian as well as an actress, I think. So she did a really good job on this, I think. Overall, I thought this was a cracking story, and spoilers alert, we end up finding out that the Time Lords crashed where Baba Yaga lived, and they were never found, and the Doctor sort of thinks they crossed paths because there's bones and skeletons and stuff on the grounds where Baba Yaga lives, and she's got this tech and stuff. And anyway, we end up discovering that the house with the chicken legs is kind of remnants of a TARDIS that's kind of used its chameleon circuit, gone a bit wonky, and adapted to the environment.
It's kind of burnt out, isn't it? It's pretty much on its last legs,
it's
so to speak.
Last chicken legs, yeah.
Last chicken legs, yeah.
And Baba Yaga, is not a witch, but there is a sort of techno-babble explanation as to why she's got metal teeth and a hook nose and all this sort of stuff,
It's a brilliant... I don't think it's a techno-babble explanation. I think it's a brilliant explanation.
Sorry, I've dismissed it a bit.
You really have. It kind of plays on the whole telepathic ability between sort of Time Lords and the TARDIS and everything else. And it's how the strength of the Baba Yaga mythology within that particular area at that time...
It starts to feed itself, doesn't it?
Exactly. It kind of empowers or becomes embodied by this whole accident, this unfortunate thrusting together of different people, an innocent woman who's kind of stumbled into the wrong place at the wrong time, and becomes the embodiment of the local boogeyman or boogie woman,
and
basically.
It's brilliant. Fears of which then feeds her.
It's great, and for me that is where Big Finish really scores highly. When it tries to recreate visual stuff, it can be really good and really exciting, but it's much better for me personally when I'm listening to this stuff to have something which is a little bit more philosophical, perhaps, where it discusses ideas within sort of conversations and within a sequence of dramatic moments. The medium of audio lends itself really well to those kind of almost two-hander type, much tighter sort of dramatic plays almost. I love Big Finish because they'll go out and do universe epic stuff anyway, but when they kind of bring it in and they sort of entwine it with this more, not necessarily cerebral, but discussing different ideas in a Doctor Who / sci-fi kind of way. I think that's brilliant because it reminds me why I love sci-fi so much. You can't really do that in any other kind of genre at all. You can't. You could have a thriller, a modern day thriller that maybe somebody thinks they're Baba Yaga, but they'll just turn out to be some crazy serial killer who dresses up, and there's a kind of myth around them. They won't turn out to be somebody who encountered the last remnants of a crashed TARDIS and everything else, but doing that allows us to sort of discuss the whole idea of how powerful folklore, myth and legend can be, and how they can infuse and change the way people behave. The whole reason for Vasilia going out in the first place, she's told to go out there, she knows it's going to be dangerous, and she is absolutely scared of encountering Baba Yaga, and her stepmother plays on that. You might not come back. Her stepsister's like, what if she doesn't come back? And like you said, the whole idea of being able to quash fire. The other thing I like about this story is how, and I think you alluded to it a moment ago, is how there's parallels with the Doctor, and how the Doctor, in a way, cannot comprehend magic right? Because she thinks, like all the Doctor's incarnations, really. And I'm thinking back to The Demons, which was another kind of supernatural infused episode where the Doctor quite expressly tells Joe, there's no such thing as magic, Joe. You know, it's science. It can all be explained by science, remote control, this, that, and the other. But of course, the Baby Yaga thing can't be, at least not immediately, not for a long time. So the Doctor starts to question, actually, what does she know? She thinks it's got to be a technology. But what technology? How? How can it possibly work? I'm looking at things and I cannot understand how that house is spinning around and moving around on chicken legs. How does it? And she gets to the point where she almost has to concede that magic does exist.
Yes, nearly goes.
And she very nearly goes there and eventually manages to kind of deduce it. But then there's also, on Baby Yaga's side, a sort of, she's coming out from the other side of the fence as Baby Yaga, and she hates the technology. She finds the TARDIS in the woods, doesn't she? And immediately just refuses to engage with it, refuses to acknowledge it. A thing of technology. It's not natural. It's a made thing, a manufactured thing. And I love those little moments within it. This story for me is by far head and shoulders way above the other two in this little trilogy.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it. And brilliant stuff. By,
Roshana Patel.
Exactly. I'd love to see more stuff from her. Just fantastic. Beautifully written, wonderfully tight, a nice mystery, wonderful tension, lots of creepy stuff, brilliant Doctor Who stuff, brilliant sci-fi stuff, a wonderful little philosophical element to it as well. That little discussion between magic and technology and perception and mythology and legend, all of that stuff, and a wonderful payoff. Absolutely loved it. Brilliant. 10 out of 10.
So, we'll... I'm just slightly conscious of time. We'll touch a bit on the last one before we look at some comments from people. So this last one is The Dimension of Lost Things, written by Lisa McMullen.
Yes.
And this one is also...
This was fun.
Yeah, it was good. The Doctor is trying to escape Cosmo, who's chasing her, and the Doctor ends up getting sucked down a temporal plug hole. And
temporal plug hole.
Yeah.
Down the back of the sofa where all the lost things end up, basically.
Well, that's sort of where it is, isn't it, really? She ends up in a weird landscape that's got all sorts of bits and pieces in, and she ends up meeting mountaineer George Mallory and a scavenger called Athelia. And George Mallory is quite famous for possibly being the first time. Let me look him up a minute to get my...
He knew Edmund Hillary, didn't he?
Yeah, so George Mallory was one of the mountaineers trying to climb Everest. And let me just have a look here. With Sandy Irvine, Andrew Irvine, so the Doctor meets him, and he's been sort of pulled from Everest into his into a temporal plug hole as well, and brought into this land of lost things. I like it when Doctor Who teaches you something, and after listening to this episode I went to look them up to see what a bit about them. And George Mallory was not found on...
Is it the other way round?
Well, I'm just checking.
It's Sandy Irvine who she meets, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what I thought, but it says on the... Finding other souls in the form of mountaineer George Mallory is the thing. But yeah, I thought it was Sandy Irvine, and so he was sucked into the land of lost things because George Mallory's body was found, but Sandy Irvine's was never found. But I looked him up afterwards, because in the story,
looking it up now.
She says, you were never found, so you could use this as an opportunity to go and explore alien worlds. But actually, at the end of last year, grimly, they found Irvine's foot on Everest, and they knew it was his because the sock was embroidered with his initials and his surname. And it is grim, but at least there was some closure to his sort of disappearance and things, and not being found. So in this story, the Doctor meets these people and then stumbles upon herself.
Yeah, that was a bit confusing.
Yeah, so it's slightly tricky in just audio, you know. But great fun hearing two Joes playing off of each other, and it turns out a little bit like Joy to the World that the second one has been waiting there for a year for this one, so the one we've been following then has to kind of wait and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
so,
I was a bit confused on that. I'm not going to lie. It might have been because I was kind of doing other things while I listen, because I have to. I can't sit still and just listen to an audio. I have to be doing other stuff. So my attention was a bit divided. So I think this one really needs attention, because
it does. Yeah,
it's quite it's not a complex plot necessarily, but it just requires attention, because there's so much going on. There are so many little twists and turns, and like you said, with two very similar sounding doctors, it's very difficult to kind of figure out which one's which. At sometimes, not all the time. You know, sometimes you can get it, sometimes you can't. So it's worth another listen. This one, the thing it reminded me of actually is I think it's one of the Hitchhiker books, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that has like a dimension of biros or something, you know, like all the pens, little biro pens that just go missing. So apparently they fall down a slip between universes and end up populating some other dimension, which is full of biros and other lost things as well, apparently. So everything you lose, you're like, I'm sure I put that down a minute ago, it has actually slipped into another dimension.
Yes.
So this kind of reminded me of that. I can't remember which Hitchhiker's book it was in. It might have been Restaurant at the End of the Universe, possibly. Right. One of them anyway. It's been a while, but that was quite fun. So it's quite fun to see that idea kind of played out in Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Void in Deadpool and Wolverine and numerous other things. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. I mean, Baba Yaga definitely the standout here, and absolutely superb. But the other two are, you know,
they're good. They're good. I mean,
equally, you know, great. You know, really good fun. But Baba Yaga, absolute standout. So I'll come to some comments in a minute, but I missed this somehow on Wednesday. I think I was running my workshop, so I didn't really look online at all.
It's actually doing a job that you get paid for.
So they announced that in July, the Fugitive Doctor will return in Dead or Alive, the next box set. So obviously in July we've got Jodie and Mandic returning as well. Another fantastic cover for this. The Big Finish really do excel. I'm slightly puzzled as to why Alice Krieg is front and centre on the Fugitive Doctor box set, but
her agent. She's got a really good agent.
That's a little bit.
Bit of negotiations going on there.
But there's three more stories here: Flying Solo, Junkyard Loop, and Hereafter, which sound really good. There's not been any more series of Fugitive announced after this, so I'm hoping that we do get more, but we'll obviously see what happens there. So over to Facebook and then Blue Sky for some comments from people. So Leslie says, it's my first ever Big Finish audio and I'm loving it so much. So that's brilliant. So Leslie's got in just at the right time there. Jay, who's also commented over on Blue Sky in a bit more depth, said, just finished Legend of Baba Yaga, and this is everything I could have wanted. I'd be on thrilled, with a gif of someone going, I can't remember who he is, he's an actor. Blue Box Artwork says, halfway through the second story and loving it. Carl Morris says, I wish past me had pre-ordered it because present me is skint and can't afford it yet, so hopefully you can get it next month, Carl. Andre says, I loved it, can't wait for the next volume. Joe was brilliant from start to finish, no surprise there, and it also felt brilliant to hear the Whittaker era theme. It very much did.
Yes. Why have we not said that already? That was brilliant. I thought, what are they going to use? I thought, are they going to have an original arrangement for the Fugitive? But when 13's theme just went, I thought it was brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
Well done, Big Finish.
Really pleased with that. Mimi says, I loved it. These stories were really creative and the mystery around Fugitive was so intriguing. And then Pine Arrow and Apple, which hopefully I've pronounced right. I've just listened to Fast Times and Baba Yaga. Both are solid. The pacing of Fast Times needed a smidge more refinement, but no real complaints otherwise so far. And then Ken Holtzhauser says, I'll add my praise to the box set. I'm 2 stories in because I want to savor the experience. Joe has taken this opportunity with both hands and is immediately captivating as a very different, though familiar version of Doctor Who. Unmissable. Ron88 Key says, I'm close to finishing the second story. Jo is a wonderful Doctor. There's a grumpiness to her portrayal that I adore, and I can't wait to see where her story goes. The British Alien says, impressed by Baby Yaga, which was rather original and unusual.
Definitely.
And then over on Blue Sky, Ripper Metal God Rich has listened to it several times now, and it's wonderful. Despite reservations regarding how this series could be adapted, I am delighted at the results. Jo is excellent, and the 3 stories help develop the character. Baba Yaga is my favourite so far. And then Jay also says, I loved it. The Legend of Baba Yaga stands out as my favourite. I enjoyed the blending of folklore and sci-fi. I'm intrigued by the dynamic between Fugitive and Cosmo and looking forward to seeing that develop. Overall, a brilliant debut for one of my favourite Chibnall era characters. Doctor Who Positivity just says it was fantastic. And James Byron Daniels said, I thought it was a promising start to the Fugitive Doctor adventures. Jo is great and the stories are entertaining and intriguing in equal measure. Lots of potential going forward. Can't wait for the next box set. So, very good.
There is a lot of potential, isn't there? You know, where are they going to take this story? You know, what are they going to do? Because there's so much mystery around the whole thing. It's just wide open. But I do hope that they don't explain everything. You know, I hope they don't go down the route of the Time War where they say, no, we're not going to explain it, and then actually show us everything.
Yeah.
You know, there are some good stories in there, but yeah, let's keep the mystery going.
Yeah.
I say.
Absolutely, yeah, I think so, yeah. So, overall, this was an absolute cracker, and I'm very excited.
I enjoyed it.
July, come on, we need you. And also, 13 will be returning then as well. So
you can't wait. You can't wait, can you? Look at your little face just lit up like a Christmas tree when you said that.
Even on top of that, I've just seen on Twitter the next 60 box set with Mrs. Clark has been announced.
There you go. Brilliant stuff. Yeah,
excellent.
Loads and loads of big finish. You better dig into that bank account, mate. Because you're going to need it going forward this year. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Dear listeners, thank you as always for listening to us. And don't forget, if you can also watch us on YouTube as well, you can do the little subscribey thing that we do and leave comments on there and tell your friends about us as well. Say, look, listen to these 2 mad guys. They talk about Doctor Who and stuff, you know. So it'd be great.
Please do.
The
more interaction we get, the better. And the more we can keep doing this. So thanks for listening and letting us know what you think of the Fugitive set, and we will catch you next time on Who Corner's Corner. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye for now, y'all. Is that good? See what I did?
What that is.
I don't know what that was.